tonight is our second annual MaineMBA Awards event. Last year we had it planned, but the Omicron variant, you may remember, came along and moved us online. And so this is our first in-person version. We're gonna record it tonight, so a packaged version will be shared with our hundreds of MBAs across the country and around the world. So be on your best behavior, because you might be being recorded, which is going to be very exciting. We're also adding this year, which we're really, really happy about, is a business forum element. So we've got an amazing keynote and a wonderful industry panel to share with you some real insights about what's happening out there, some cool things for yourselves and your careers, before we get to acknowledge 4 amazing alumni and their accomplishments who've been nominated, gone through a selection process, and been selected to win their awards for this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Jeff Mills, Dr. Jeff Mills, who's the president and CEO of the UMaine Foundation. He's been in that role for a little over a decade. We're doing our very best we've ever done in terms of development, and he was awarded a major award by CASE, which is an association that sponsors the advancement and support of education in the United States, one of 2 last year, correct, Jeff? In 2022 was as a leader of foundations. So he's a great resource for the university, so it's all yours, sir.
Thank you. We have a lot of speakers that are going to do different pieces, and as often happens, I don't want to end up saying exactly what they were going to say, but at the danger of doing that, I'm just going to mention a couple of things. We are so pleased to be here. If you haven't had a chance to check out the Maine Grad Center next door, we're really pleased to be there. We've just moved the University of Maine Foundation's Southern Maine offices into that building. It's made up of the law school, and particularly the MBA. We have Gateway program, other things that others will probably mention after me today. But we are working on a $240 million matching grant that is going to be part from the Harold Alfond Foundation. It's historic in this country, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later on with some of the other speakers probably today. It is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for tonight, Nicole Tackett. She has received her BA from the University of Georgia and her MBA from the University of Maryland. She also came to Maine to work at WEX, and then later, and has been based during this time period out of Cape Elizabeth, with her current position as head of strategy and chief product officer for the U.S. Banks Commercial's Payment Solutions. Nicole is an experienced payment leader focused on strategy and innovation. She has been named one of the most influential women in the payments industry throughout the country, determined by the industry's news outlet Source in 2018 and also recently in 2021. Please join me in welcoming Nicole Tackett to the stage. Nicole. Hey.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here tonight and just share a little bit of my thoughts that can help us on our journey throughout our careers and throughout life. So I wanted to talk about the art of the possible and what does that mean and how we can use that to our advantage. So I just want to do a show of hands here in the room tonight. So how many people in this room consider yourself type A personalities? I know many people in this room too, and they're looking at me like, yes, Nicole is definitely a type A personality. So I'm definitely in that bucket. I feel at home with a plan and a clear path. And I'm just gonna give you a quick look about how that turned out for me. So as Jeff mentioned, I'm a native of Memphis, Tennessee. I did my undergrad at the University of Georgia. And if you would have told my younger self that one day I would live in Maine, I never would have believed you. I just thought you were playing a huge practical joke on me. And one day, I was coming to work in Maine, and I met my future husband, who is, by the way, a native Texan. And I ended up moving to Maine, and I've been here 13 wonderful years, and I couldn't have imagined a better quality of life for me or my family. So while it can be unnerving not to know what the future may hold, it can be exciting to think about the best is yet to come, and it's something that you never could have imagined. So let's do another show of hands. How many of you in this room kind of knew what you wanted to do when you were in high school and college for your career? How many, did you know what you wanted to do when you were in college? Yeah. And are you doing that? Just keep your hand up if you're doing that today. Okay. And then how many of you are doing something in your job or your career that you didn't even know existed? That's pretty amazing, isn't it? My grandfather worked for Goodyear for 50 years as an accountant, and that to me is unimaginable, right? So we live in this really fast-changing environment where we can have multiple careers within our career. So that as well is just a pretty amazing possibility. So I think you're getting my point. So what can we do, because some of us are type A's, to control and maximize our opportunities? I have 4 things. So education. So many in this room hold postgraduate degrees, undergraduate degrees, doctoral degrees, formal education, informal education. We use the education to fill our gaps where we may lack experience, or really to specialize where we need expertise even more. But either way, education is a good bet on the future version of ourselves. Number 2, abortive advisors. So creating a network of trusted advisors who can help you navigate challenges and opportunities. This is a small special group, can be former professors, it can be former managers, it can be your running partner, it can be your friends, it can be your spouse. But really having a group that can help you see your blind spots, that can be truthful with you, that helps you articulate your strengths and provides some clarity for you under uncertainty. I kind of liken this group to Robert De Niro and Meet the Parents, you know, the circle of trust. So, but it really can be helpful as you navigate your challenges or your opportunities. And there's your skill set evolution. So moving from fluid intelligence of our youth to crystallized intelligence as we age. So I'm going to oversimplify this, but bear with me. Fluid intelligence involves thinking quickly and solving complex problems. It usually peaks in our 30s. Whereas crystallized intelligence increases as we age, as we accumulate knowledge through life's experiences and by remaining curious. So I was listening to a podcast by Arthur Brooks, How to Derive Purpose and Happiness. And he talks about these 2 forms of intelligence, and he gives 2 examples, very well-known men, Darwin and Bach. So Darwin became depressed midlife because his research hit a wall. And Bach, while he could no longer create the complex compositions from his youth, he reinvented himself as a master instructor, and he was beloved by his students. And Bach found purpose in life, purpose and joy later in his life, while Darwin remained inactive. So we can lean into this evolution as we change and age to increase our fulfillment and guide our pursuits. And then number 4, the pillars of well-being. So as you evolve in your life and you're making decisions, what is negotiable and what is not negotiable? So for example, I moved to Maine to work for a Maine-based company. And when I was recruited to work for another company, I said I wouldn't move. Because I had a unique skill set, my employer allowed it, and this was over 9 years ago, pre-COVID. So for right now, moving out of Maine is a non-negotiable for me, and salary maximization isn't at the top of the list. So what is good enough from an earnings perspective to allow me to be the mom I want to be, live where I want to be, and be part of the community I want to be in? I'm grounded in my pillars, and they may evolve, but the pillars inform my decisions. So how do we tie this all together? I recently had a gentleman on my team recommend the book, Thinking in Bets, Making Smart Decisions When You Don't Have All the Facts by Annie Duke. And at the core, we are all entrepreneurs. My business is Nicole Tackett, Inc. The decisions that I make create my brand and are an investment in the future version of myself. But according to Annie Duke, 2 forces influence our life: the quality of our decisions and luck. If anyone tells you that they got where they are by themselves, don't believe them. We all have help along the way and a little bit of luck, or a lot of luck. But we can also take the pressure off. There is no right and wrong. We are not wrong because a decision didn't work out, and we're not right because they did. It could have just been luck. So Annie likens life to poker versus chess. Chess has no hidden information and very little luck. Poker, you thrive with luck, risk, and uncertainty. So by focusing on these 4 areas, we can equip ourselves to make the best decisions at any given time. But within the beauty of the journey lies the art of the possible. Thank you.
I think we have an adjunct professor position open for Dr. Tackett. That was well done, and on time, and a lot of real nuggets there that we can thank. So I'm going to call on our president, Dr. Joan Freeney-Mundy. I know she's here. There she is. Dr. Freeney-Mundy is the president of the University of Maine. She's also the vice chancellor of the University of Maine system, in charge of research and innovation. If you don't know her background, before coming to Maine, which I believe is about 5 years ago, she was COO of the National Science Foundation, has a background as a mathematician at UNH and wonderful places. So up to the stage, welcome.
Thanks so much, Norm. Good afternoon, everybody. What a fantastic gathering, and so grateful that people would come together here and celebrate the University of Maine's Maine Business Graduate School of Business, Alumni Awards. Delighted to see you all. And what a fantastic talk that was. Where did you go? Terrific. I actually know Annie Duke. I'll tell you more about that. She was the daughter of a person that I taught with in a private school in New Hampshire a long time ago. So it's great to hear her mentioned. But I'd like to just say a few words about the importance of this MBA as really a catalyst for collaboration across so many fields. Our location here in Portland, in the Maine Graduate and Professional Center, together with the law school, together with Muskie School of Public Policy, and soon to come, much more engagement from the University of Maine's graduate programs in engineering. This is a center for the economy of Maine. And I'm so thrilled that the awardees here tonight are able to celebrate together and to be a part of this movement that we really are creating here, with great thanks to the Alphon Foundation for their support and generosity. And also to all of you who are a part of designing programs that cut across boundaries, that ignore silos, that recognize that the problems of today in the state of Maine require that we come together no matter what our disciplines are, but with a focus on what it will take to solve these problems through ingenuity, through innovation, through creativity, and just really good basic knowledge of so many areas that we have here. So thank you for being here together. Thank you for being a part of what I hope becomes just an even more expansive movement really through the state of Maine to cut across boundaries and solve the problems that we see as a state. I appreciate being included, Norm. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Freeney-Mundy. And next, I'm going to call on our Chancellor, Daniel Malloy, to come up and introduce the moderator for our panel and say a few words. As you know, he's in charge of the University of Maine system, former governor of the state of Connecticut, and a wonderful background as a lawyer. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Norm. Great to be with all of you. It's a great, I have not been in this building before, and it is quite remarkable. So thanks for getting it open for us to have this event here and take in the beauty, another beautiful spot in Maine. It's great to be with all of you, and nice that we can actually get together in a room and see one another as well. And so congratulations, Norm, for putting together, you and your leadership group, putting something like this together and getting these wonderful folks here, and quite frankly, giving appropriate recognition not only to the panelists who will follow, but to the award winners. My congratulations to the award winners this evening on the receipt of this recognition. It's always nice to be recognized. I want to pick up just briefly on some of the things that Joan said, but we didn't go over one another's lineup, so I just want to emphasize a little bit more what's special about the Graduate Center here in Maine. For instance, You should understand that that's one of only 5 such comings together on an institutional basis of an MBA program and a law school, engineering to be introduced, public health and public policy. The idea is that issues today, not surprisingly, are far more complex than they were 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 100 years ago or several hundred years ago when Collegiate Academy was put together. This idea is groundbreaking as we address how complex the challenges that we are facing as a nation and as a society, and quite frankly, the health of our world. The opportunity to be actively engaged on an ongoing basis in preparing the next decision makers, the next scientists, the next engineers, and understanding that they will know more about other fields of study than was formerly thought possible on a grand scale. That's what we're engaged in here in Maine, here next door at the building, and more to come, quite frankly. And so I want to congratulate Joan Farini-Mundi and other presidents in our constellation of universities and great faculty who participate. But understand, Mainers, you are in the process of changing education in America, and this is just one of those examples. And congratulations particularly to our MBA program, the idea that we are introducing to those attorneys, some of whom we don't like, I happen to be one, or to other fields of study is so very important. Norm, thank you and for all that you do and the faculty are doing and turning out and meeting the need, turning out great graduates and meeting the needs of this state and quite frankly some other states that need people who are trained in Maine. Finally, I know this is a quick program. I'll get out of here, I promise, but Katie Shorey is going to come up. Katie, it's nice to see you. I saw that you were at St. Lawrence at one point. I have 2 nephews and 1 niece who are at St. Lawrence, and I think one of them was in your class. What I would say to you is she returned from experiences away in Washington, D.C. and San Francisco, and came back and is committed to furthering the interests of all of us in the state of Maine, and for that we are very, very grateful. She had worked with People's Bank and with WEX. She's giving of her time in many different ways and her expertise in many different ways in supporting charitable undertakings to help us build the next generation of leaders, but also to drive economic development. Katie, thank you for what you're doing. It's great to have you here. I'm sure you're going to run a great panel, and if you were running the one that I'm part of, you would have cut me off already. Come on up, Katie.
Okay, thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Katie Shorey, and I am with an organization called Live and Work in Maine. And our job is to market our great state as a place to live and work. And Nicole, loved your comments about the art of the possibility. I think a lot of us, like you said, did not know what kind of field that we would enter. And that's part of the hard thing that we're up against too with Live and Work in Maine. We're not very good at bragging. So sometimes we need to do a bit more storytelling around the kinds of industries and job opportunities that we have in state. So that's what we aim to do. So I'm so excited. I'm going to have the panel come up now, and then I will introduce everyone, and we're going to have a great conversation. So while they're making their way up here, we hope that you will not only walk away inspired, thank you, inspired tonight, but also learn a bit about what these individuals are seeing as trends in their industries and their sectors. I had to turn mine on, so don't, just flip it up. So we're gonna jump right in. So right next to me, we have Leo Waterston. He is with Focus Maine. We have Henry Quinn, Director of Analytics for LL Bean. We have Jennifer Hutchins, Executive Director of the Maine Association of Nonprofits. And then at the end, Renee Kelly, Associate Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, Innovation, and Engagement for the University of Maine. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I'm excited for this conversation. Real quick, as we need to perk up the energy again in this room. Real quick, what's a special talent that you have that we might not know? Leo?
I'm a semi-washed-up guitar player, and have a lot of fun playing, mostly for stress relief and to try to convince my kids to take up the guitar unsuccessfully, mostly. But it's a lot of fun.
Love it. Jen?
Picking up on the music theme, I'm a trained soprano. I can dole off a little Italian aria if you like.
Henry?
I do a lot of my own sewing.
Renee?
Hey, I was going to say something else, but I'll stick with the music theme. I play French horn, trumpet, clarinet, and a few other things.
We're going to go on the road, I think.
Okay, I'm an alto.
You can make the costumes.
Okay, we have a little band right here. Okay, anyway, so for the audience tonight, I know we're going to cover a wide range of topics, but what is something high level that you want the audience to learn? If they're going to walk away with anything, and we're going to dive in, we're going to dive into the deep details, but if you were to have the audience take something away tonight, what do you hope that is? Henry, I'm going to pick on you.
So I think that so much of what we've heard, which is about the art of the possible, about being open to not having been able to predict the future, about where you would wind up, is probably the single most important certainly lesson that I've learned firsthand as I've moved through my career, is just that openness to, hey, where does this passage go? You head down it, and it might be the right one, might not, but the likelihood that you got it right when you were in 8th grade and said, I'd like to be a famous guitar player, pretty small.
Renee, what do you hope the audience takes away?
I'd like to add that there are many things possible here in Maine. I think Maine is on the cusp of many great things. I think you feel the energy here in Portland. But Maine also has a lot to offer the world. What the world needs now includes sustainable solutions, access to quality air, food, energy, and Maine can provide those things, and that's going to provide great economic opportunity for our state in the future.
Leo?
Kind of along the same theme, I hope that people walk away realizing that there are diverse and exciting career paths in the state of Maine, particularly those centered around the innovation economy.
Jen?
Yeah, and excuse me, I would just pick up on what's already been said, purpose. I really appreciate bringing that up, and possibility. And I think would be great is if everybody walked away understanding that 1 in 6 workers in the state of Maine works for a charitable 501c3 nonprofit. So that's a pretty significant portion of our workforce that's working for nonprofits. And they are definitely, it's really the possibility, and I'm so encouraged by particularly younger generations who are making sure that want their careers to be simultaneous with having a sense of community and purpose. And nonprofits are definitely an option for helping you find that success in your career.
So let's dive in a little bit more on your respective industries that you all represent. The audience would love to, I'm sure, would love to hear different trends that you are seeing from your vantage point that we might not know about what you're seeing, and something that we can all maybe take away. So, Renee, with your line of work, what are you seeing? It could be from the vantage point of UMaine or the innovations that are coming out of the university. What are some trends in your area?
Well, I'll just pick up on the theme that I mentioned earlier. In the world's interest and corporations' interest in sustainability, companies are both being pressured from the outside to think about their ESG goals, environmental, sustainability, governance goals, thinking about inclusion. But I also see much more of a trend of that being much more intrinsically motivated. People and companies we're working with really want to change their practices and be a better citizen for the future.
Henry, you oversee analytics at LL Bean, which there must be so many insights. What about you? What about your industry and trends right now?
So I think that It's funny, things move so quickly. I was just thinking about this morning, that I think since the last time we spoke, that my answer may have changed. I think that what we're seeing with the pace of change in sort of reference to the skills that are helpful, the approaches that are useful, even what things that I might provide as a professional person to whatever endeavor I'm involved in as a human being is increasingly relevant as we think about some of the offerings that are out there. So I think it's the fact that the focus for us has really become much less specific tool or specific technology focused, and much more about looking for people who are able to apply things, whatever the tool, in ways that are resourceful, in ways where you can find an approach after your first one doesn't work, you can easily move on to your second one. That type of mental resilience, I think, is one of the only things that we can be reasonably certain is going to sort of hold up as a really, really valuable skill as we move forward. And I think that move away from, well, I've got to be up on every single bit of the latest technology, to I need to be capable of learning quickly, and I need to be capable of moving whatever sort of comes up, is one of the big realizations that I think we've had in the last few years.
Wow, that's interesting. And Jen, how many nonprofits do we have in the state now? Putting you on the spot for your, I should have known this from the annual report.
No, I actually know that number. The reason why I'm chuckling is because it really depends on how you look at it. But roughly speaking, if you narrow in on 501c3 charitable nonprofits that are public benefit nonprofits, and you think about the number of them that at least have a staff member and then up, there are approximately 3,000 in the state of Maine.
Wow, so you represent, the organization represents all of those in Maine.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're a capacity building organization. We're a 501c3 ourselves. So while we have members, we have over 1,000 members across the state of Maine in every Maine county. We don't officially have members. We're not a trade association. We are a resource and education association that provides resources to those nonprofits.
And are they coming to you in the last few years with needs that are different from the last 5, 10 that you've noticed?
Yeah, well, absolutely. There's nothing that the pandemic hasn't showed us, but that both the vitalness of our nonprofits. Every one of us benefited from a nonprofit through the pandemic in the last couple of years, whether it was immediate public health emergency concerns, through protecting our most vulnerable citizens, to making sure our kids had viable options for online learning. I mean, it's just the uses are tremendous the past couple of years. And they're very, very stressed in terms of trying to deliver increasing services with what we also know is reductions in giving. And so the tension for nonprofits is getting very serious.
Okay, well, we're going to dive into that sector a bit more, but
we need accountants.
Oh,
I wanted to.
Where's Trish? She's working so hard.
I wanted to say that. We need nonprofit accountants in the state of Maine. It's a problem.
Everyone needs everything in the state of Maine, as we know. So tell the audience a bit more about Focus Maine, because I didn't let you give a plug for the 3 main industries that you represent, and then some of the trends that you're seeing in those areas.
Sure, thanks. So Focus Maine is a nonprofit economic development organization. We primarily support the agriculture, aquaculture, and biopharmaceutical industries and sectors in Maine, so really the food economy and the bioeconomy, and workforce development initiatives to support those sectors as well. And a lot of what we're seeing, I think, is that's really exciting is some of the intersections between those sectors. So food and biotech, a lot of really exciting things happening nationally, but in particular here in Maine, because of our natural strengths as a state, some of the competitive advantage we have really here with examples from the seafood industry and aquaculture here. Seaweed, many of you know there was this International Seaculture Conference here last September. They're coming back again this September because they're excited about what's going on in Maine, and Maine is really leading the way in many ways in that industry. So a lot of those intersections, with climate, sustainability and resilience, food as medicine, and people looking for higher quality food sources and proteins, lots to capitalize on here in Maine that we see.
I love that intersection of our traditional heritage industries and then the intersection of technology. I think it's a huge opportunity for us. So we all know that we need talent. I mean, Live and Work in Maine's mission is to attract, retain talent. Every industry is hurting for people. We know this, from healthcare workers to, we need engineers, we need food service workers, we need everything. So we know that, but is there a type of talent, or do we have a talent gap when it comes to certain skills? And have you noticed that, I love this question, if skills had monetary value, which skills would be worth the most amount of money? Does anyone want to take that? Because I think that's a fascinating just angle on the talent gap. Henry, you're smiling.
Yeah, I'm thinking of my own talents right now, in which I would personally put the most monetary value on. I mean, I'll repeat. I think that the most important skills that I find, and we do a lot of, we've been like many of you in the organizations that you might work for or go to work for, we've been in Maine for a while at LL Bean, and so we have been dealing with our geographical isolation and our regionality and all of those things in hiring for many, many years. And what I think works well for us and has worked well over the last several years and will be our path moving forward is to really hire for upside, hire for those people who are self-starters, hire for those people who are comfortable. Hey, I don't know what to do, let me jump on Google. Let me walk down the hall and speak to a person who maybe I don't know that well. Let me, if it's at a large enough scale, go to a university and figure it out there. That self-starter and the courage that it requires to do that. Larry Wall, who developed Perl, which preceded Python, he said that the three qualities of genius are laziness, impatience, and hubris. And I think that is it's a powerful cocktail of people who want to solve their own problems, feel that they can, and then sort of take those things on in such a way that in the end frees them up to take on the next thing.
Renee, you're now with your role engagement, you're engaging with a lot of the corporations. Are they coming, from the university's perspective, are they coming to you and saying, we need this type of skill set, or we need this type of person? What are you hearing from the employer community?
Well, it's really across the board, as you suggested. I mean, almost every industry and career field in Maine, we need more teachers. We need more healthcare workers, I mean, the things that you might expect, but also a huge percentage of the current engineering workforce will be retiring over the next 10 years. We're hearing from companies they need people with digital skills. But I'll go back to what Henry also said earlier. They're also telling us, we were just with an organization yesterday, the most important thing to us are having people with critical thinking skills, able to do analysis. They can learn the specific technology skills because those will change over one's lifetime and you'll have to learn new ones. You have to be someone who can continue to learn. I teach in an innovation program at the university, and my pitch to students to get them involved in the program is that no matter what career field you go into, you need to be able to solve problems, communicate your solutions effectively to others, and then be able to test and implement them. And so that cross-cuts all of those sectors that we're working with.
Anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, so I totally agree with what Henry and Renee have been talking about, and I would just say, soft skills are the new hard skills in the 21st century economy. I mean, your knowledge base gets stale pretty quickly, and you'll need to learn how to learn and sort of cultivate curiosity to be successful over the course of your career. And I also would add just, communication skills are so critical, and in particular, I think the ability to distill complex information into plain language is at a premium, and if you can do that well, you'll have a lot of doors open up for you.
So, Leo, while I have you, so other than talent, what are challenges that are facing your sectors? Is it funding? You're seeing the intersection of a lot of industries. What do you think? What are some of the bigger challenges coming ahead for life sciences, for example?
Certainly, talent remains a challenge. Beyond that, I think in the life sciences, we see a need for increased infrastructure, sort of crucial infrastructure to support that sector. So wet lab space, for example, is still at a premium here. And that enables, cutting edge biomedical research which brings in federal grant dollars, which create high-quality jobs, and also spur innovation, as it relates to entrepreneurship and commercial development, technology transfer, patents, et cetera. So it really feeds that kind of virtuous cycle and ecosystem that we want to see develop more here in Maine, and that intersection of science and innovation and entrepreneurship. So that infrastructure, I think, we see as critical, and there's opportunities, but there's challenges there as well. I do think Maine is poised to build on some successes there, and when we think about how our proximity to the Boston-Cambridge hub of the life sciences and some of the quality of life and other factors that Maine has going for it, I think people are realizing that coming to Maine is a real possibility, and there's a lot more interest that we're seeing with the partners that we work with in the life sciences here.
Renee, I'm just wondering if you can add on to that, and Jen, then I'm going to come to you and talk about nonprofits and the misconceptions in that industry. But when we did our prep call, we talked a bit about, and you even mentioned this in your opening remarks, about just this opportunity for Maine to be thought of as a leader in solving global problems. Can you expand on that a little bit and set that
Sure.
in motion?
Well, the fun fact I was going to give about myself is that because I think, and research shows that history informs our future direction, I created a database of all the inventions by Maine inventors in the 1800s. And the reason I did that is I wanted to see what were our strengths then, and you wouldn't be surprised to know that they revolved around our natural resources. Right? We had lots of innovations in the forestry sector, tied to our coastline, whether it was fishing related or shipbuilding related. And those natural resources became commoditized and less important over the next several decades. But as I said earlier, that's what the world needs now, are sustainable solutions to replacing fossil fuels. So those forest and sea products now become the products of the future again. And so, as Leo said, if we can harness our innovation and entrepreneurial energy, those are research strengths for the university. That's where we see the new inventions coming out of the university. That's where we're working with a lot of entrepreneurs and even larger companies to bring new products to market, are addressing those needs around the world.
And people want to work on those solutions and be here. So it's a talent attraction opportunity for us if we can get that message in front of the right people.
Yeah, we absolutely see that in our student recruitment. The students who come to Maine, obviously they see many attractive things about coming to Maine and being in the environment where you can be in Portland, but you can go skiing and you can go hiking and you can go to the coast. But students care about the world they live in today, and they want to ensure that it's a healthy place for people to be in the future, so they do want to work on those kinds of things. So it's a great opportunity to bring all of those pieces together for Maine's future.
And fun fact, Maine has the student loan repayment program, which is a tax incentive. So it doesn't matter where you went to school in the United States, if you have loans, be it from undergrad or master's program, you can get up to $2,500 a year toward your student loan payments. So it's a very cool program, and Maine is one of the only places that has this. So if you are hiring folks, make sure you mention that, because sometimes that is the thing that can pull them over the edge. So Jen, the nonprofit industry, I am a fellow nonprofit person. I've worked in nonprofits for over a decade. Sometimes I think maybe the business community doesn't always know what's going on, the types of challenges that we face. There's so many misconceptions, I think, about the industry, and yet the graduate school has a nonprofit management focus area. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, what are some just misconceptions about the nonprofit industry?
Yeah, I think that the primary one is that all of us, were not, it wasn't part of our school education to learn about the nonprofit sector. We tend to know about government and we know about business. And then there is this group that we might come into contact because we were we went to a summer camp, and who knows what corporate structure it was set up under, and there are 26 nonprofit codes in the IRS, with the IRS, and who knows which one it is, and cemeteries have their very own number. And, you know, or maybe you or somebody you know has been voluntold in your company to serve on a board, and you're going to these board meetings, but you don't really understand what the bylaws are. And, you know, I mean, we really haven't been introduced to the actual purpose of the nonprofit sector and where it comes from. And really, because of that, I don't think we've ever, as a society, harnessed the power of the nonprofit sector. It's really kind of the third baby cousin or whatever, a bad analogy, sorry. But because none of us really understand, or maybe we bought a brownie and somebody is like, oh, please give some money to this charity, and it's all about the people who need our help, and it's them over there. But both Katie and Leo are prime examples of not that. Right? They both work for nonprofit organizations. They're both brilliant, committed, talented people who have successful careers, and they want to be finding solutions for their community. And Chancellor Malloy was saying it's such a complex world out there right now, and nonprofits are specifically, and I'm talking about the charitable nonprofits, which are 75% of all nonprofits, the public benefit ones. Their job, essentially, the idea is that in exchange for federal income tax, and that's the only tax that they are automatically exempt from, they pay other types of taxes all the time. That's one myth. It's not 100% tax-free. But the deal that we make as a society is we're a nonprofit, we're gonna have a public benefit in exchange for federal income tax. And there's so much potential there, because what that means is that the mission is giving back to the community. And it's essentially the group of organizations where a community has said, this is a problem or an opportunity in our community that either the public sector or the private sector, for better or worse, are choosing not to take up for whatever reason. So it's us deciding that we want to tackle something and make a difference and get something done together. And I think my primary message is that I think that because of the way the nonprofit sector was initially set up, we don't really understand the power of bringing community together around a common purpose and getting some really great stuff done together.
Preach, love it. Yes, and switching gears a little bit, because I want to come back, because I think something that you said, we see a lot of young people enter nonprofit field, and we have a lot of young people that are now staying in Maine, moving to Maine. So I'll come back to that, because I want us to think through a bit how we can really develop that pipeline. But I wanted to ask Henry while he's right here. So you describe your work as using data to make decisions, and I'm curious, what are some emerging opportunities for business professionals to enter your industry? Because it's kind of become the hot topic, data analytics. We've seen the programs pop up all over. So tell us more about your sector and how we can, and what are the perks of getting involved in this area?
So the perks of getting involved in my area. So I think a lot of what we've heard over the past couple minutes, it's really resonated for me in as much as, there is I think some of the things that we might all value are, people with a breadth of perspective, people who are capable of, critical thinking, learning new skills. I think within the, what are the benefits and what are the opportunities within the more analytical areas? I think that working in an analytical area, whether it is for a private company, whether it is for a government agency or a nonprofit, I think that assuming you also have the communication skills to go with it and the ability to boil things up or down, depending on which direction you boil your things, into something that can move somebody's perspective and move a non-expert's perspective. Assuming you have that communication, working with data, it puts you on a steady footing for advocacy for whatever it is that you feel you would like to make a difference in. And, obviously you need the data to, actually, you need to listen to that data. But as a basis for advocacy, for solving a problem, starting something new, improving something that exists, if you've got that communication component starting from a place of data and analytics, regardless of what sector you're in or what problem you're trying to solve, really puts you in just a very sound, firm, place to be operating from.
Thank you. So with our 5 minutes we have left, I'm going to ask, well, has anyone been attending the Inclusion Maine conference this week? I know this is his third panel of the day, so he's had a day. So Inclusion Maine, they put on a diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Hundreds and hundreds of Mainers attended this conference and really talked about how we can, essentially how we can be more thoughtful as employers, but also being very intentional about hiring people of color and attracting and retaining folks in Maine. So I know that the two of you were at the conference this week, so I'm just curious, any lessons and learnings that you've taken away from that conference? Because I'm just curious as we think about how we support the pipeline of talent and rethinking how people integrate in the workforce and careers, I think we'd be remiss not to mention the fact that was going on this week. So if you have any takeaways from that conference, since it was clearly very impactful the last few days, I would be curious. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, but.
Sure. So I think one theme that I took away from the conference was the shift that's happening in Maine to really embracing new Mainers and a more diverse population. We're, I think, one of the top couple, if not the top state in the country. Recently, I saw the statistics showing in terms of number of in-migration to our state. So we're starting to embrace that as a culture, as a state, and I think we just need to lean heavily into that and be as welcoming a place as possible. I think Maine has a lot of great history and strengths as a sort of place-based welcoming community that values community, and I think that's what attracts a lot of folks here, and we need to just, again, lean into being as welcoming as we can, because the workforce of the future, is going to come from outside of Maine in large parts. And I think the other piece I took away was diverse talent pipelines, and everybody's working on developing talent pipelines, and I think in the STEM fields, for example, which we're involved in, recognizing and educating the public that the majority of STEM jobs don't actually require an advanced degree. The majority of STEM workers hold a bachelor's degree. In many cases, they hold certificates and can have very rewarding career paths. And so it's lower barrier to entry to great career paths than a lot of people think.
I would just say that I was really inspired by how much work is going on in this area at all levels. There's a lot of energy happening with the State Department of Economic and Community Development. And if you're associated with a company or an organization that's interested, there's a lot of work going into that office. There's also a lot of work happening at the local level. The city of Lewiston was featured. The Greater Portland Chamber of Commerce is doing an extraordinary amount of work partnering with organizations to try to help employers get the diversity resources that they need to be able to change their internal practices and their teams to be able to not only attract but then retain people once they get here. Very, very inspiring. So I'd encourage anyone to reach out and start tapping into some of those resources, many of which are nonprofits. Another little ad there. But it's really, really inspiring. The energy at that conference was really phenomenal. Oh, the last thing I'd like to say is even if you don't feel like you have need in your organization, I just want to say that as community members, there's a lot that we can do to support our state's need to support our economy moving forward and being as welcoming and open as possible, which is you can support public policy. There are legislative initiatives right now at the State House. You can let your legislator know that you care about it. You can let your local governments know. There's a lot you can do as a community member to make sure that our social clubs and our churches and our synagogues and our programs are welcoming to people of all backgrounds to the state of Maine. So that's a pitch to pitch in.
Thank you for bringing that up. And another quick thing, and I did not come up with this, but the notion from away, we need to stop saying that because it's not inclusive. I know it's an endearing term for many of us folks who grew up in Maine, but people don't want to hear, oh, you're from away. It's just, we need to kind of cut that out of our language. So I did not come up with that, but I think it's a little thing that we can do. Real quick, last question, sort of rapid fire as we wrap up. I'm just curious if you were to envision your industry, what are your hopes for it in the next 5 years in Maine? Like if funding wasn't an issue, I'm just curious about your vision for your sector, how we can dream big, because sometimes we need to think a little bit bigger in Maine. So any visions for your sectors?
I have a really easy one. If we could solve the housing problem in Maine, we'd be all set.
Okay, except for that one. That one's very hard.
Yeah. I'll jump in and say that Provost Ballin just said this in a meeting yesterday. The rate of Maine high school graduates going on to post-secondary education is actually dropping. And it really should be just the reverse of that. So I think we should collectively in this room and beyond educate and share with our students the opportunities that will exist for them and those important skills, foundational skills that they develop with a post-secondary degree and how that will help them in the future, get more kids in post-secondary education.
I would like to, someone this evening has mentioned that one thing that Maine organizations and Maine people I think we don't do naturally is brag. I think, however, that a lot of the things that we do and the ways that we do them, and I like to think this about LL Bean, are exemplary. And I would like to see us stand as examples of ways to be a good citizen in our case, as a for-profit company, and to hopefully let other people, kind of see that and learn that you can do that and you can participate in that way.
Leo, any closing thoughts?
I'll go back to the themes of innovation and climate resilience. I think that Maine is uniquely positioned to lead in those areas, and I hope we take advantage of our unique position there and really exciting career opportunities for young people in those areas and at those intersections. The MaineMBA program has a blue economy concentration that is going to position those graduates for really interesting careers, business or regulatory-oriented careers, for example, that support the working waterfront. So careers that probably no one envisioned just a few years ago.
I want to thank you all for your thought leadership and for giving us a glimpse into the insights in the industries that you work in. So thank you all for engaging with us tonight on this important topic, and I will hand it back over to Norm. So thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. That was fantastic, both to Nicole and to Katie and our panel, staying on time, staying on topic. So now we're moving into the awards part of our evening. So we have 4 awards to give out. I'm first just a little bit of housekeeping. So for the award winners, we're good now? Sorry. The award winners, we would like to have some photos. So our photographer, where are you? Is right here. This gentleman right here. And so please have a look at him. He's going to take some photos of you. And for the dignitaries who come up to hand it out, we'd like you to stick around just for a second to get a couple of photos with your recipient. So first I'm going to call on, he was just mentioned, Dr. John Vollen, our Provost and Executive Vice President of Academic Affairs for the University of Maine. So John, if you want to come up. John is a natural resources scholar of great renown. What's most interesting, the 2 places that he's been before he came here were UConn and Florida Atlantic. Are there any basketball fans? I don't know if you're watching this weekend, but both kind of Cinderella stories that are playing in the Final Four. John takes full credit for the success of those teams. So let's welcome John up. He's also my boss, so give a really good round of applause. So thank you. Our first award of the evening is the Dean's Award. And so the Dean's Award, for anyone who's been in a position like this, it's a challenging one because you have to make the decision. So we actually talked as a group about maybe we should drop an award next time. Let's drop the Dean's Award so I don't have to make that decision. But we got a whole bunch of wonderful, wonderful nominations. And our winner, who is Nicole, if you want to start to make your way up. I had one anecdote from one of her faculty members that I'm going to read because it's really quite impressive. So one of her professors describes her as a truly extraordinary person who exemplifies all the wonderful qualities we would want in our MBA students and alumni. She graduated with her Master of Business Administration in Business Analytics with an overall GPA of just 4.0. More importantly, this person has always been highly involved with the Maine Business School and Graduate School of Business, serving as a graduate mentor to the Women in Business organization, as well as to the MBS Corps, which we can explain to you if you'd like to learn. In the classroom, she was similarly engaged and involved, bringing enthusiasm and energy to class. Her dedication to her studies, as well as her work now with Baker Newman Noyes in the audit department is extraordinary, and we've heard from some of her colleagues that she's continuing that work as a professional. So it's my honor to present the Dean's Award this year to Nicole Ann Pelletier. Congratulations, Nicole. She has declined to say a couple of words. Congratulations, Nicole. Exceptional work. Our next award, I'm going to call on Dr. Bert. Hold on a second here. I've lost my pages. To come to the page, to the stage. Yes, I know Bert Smolik. Dr. Smolik is a full professor in the finance department, and he works very closely with me in the MaineMBA. He's at the University of Southern Maine. So I just wanted to note that the MaineMBA draws on faculty from both the University of Maine and the University of Southern Maine business schools. Bert has been instrumental in our finance group as a new finance concentration, and has been with the University of Southern Maine now for 24 years, something like that, and has been highly involved all the way along, and has held the associate dean position as well, I believe. So Bert is going to introduce our winner of the Under 40 Award. Sir?
As Norm just said, our next award is for the Under 40 Award. So the Under 40 Award is an award selected by the steering committee of the Graduate School of Business and presented to a graduate of the University of Maine system, MBA, who's under the age of 40 at the time of nomination. The award recipient is chosen based on their contributions to the field. The winner of this year's U40 award goes to someone who has successfully utilized their MaineMBA to propel themselves through a very successful career transition. At his new firm, Hyde Park Capital, he has already successfully completed multiple sell-side mergers and acquisition transactions with values totaling over $100 million. In addition to his business success, he is also in the process of engaging with organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce, Emerging Leaders Group, and the Economics Development Council. His past success clearly demonstrates that he is a strong ambassador for the University of Maine. I am honored to announce that this year's U40 award goes to Luke Horansky. Congratulations, Luke.
Luke is joining us from afar this evening to accept his award.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to extend my deepest apologies for not being able to attend this year's event in person. I'm incredibly honored and excited to be recognized with this year's impressive group of award winners. Congratulations to each of you on your accomplishments and strong representation of the University of Maine. I'd like to thank my colleagues for the nomination and the selection committee for your consideration. I look forward to continued progression in representing the University of Maine with the highest of standards. Thank you.
For our third award, there are two to go. This is our Outstanding Accounting Award. So Trish Brigham, if you want to come up. Trish is a dear friend of the program. She's the Executive Director of the Maine Society of CPAs. I'm a CPA, so I say that with great affection, and has been involved with us, and we've been working together to improve our accounting program. She hosted a session last year with all our faculty and a number of local accounting firms, so thank you. She's going to present the award. I would also ask Dr. John Volan, if John is still nearby, if you could come back up and give out this award, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. I'm really honored to be joining you in recognizing such a talented group of University of Maine business alumni. It's really exciting to be here in person. We were honored to participate last year, and this is much better than doing it via Zoom. The Outstanding Accounting Award is given by the Maine Society of CPAs in conjunction with the University of Maine Business School to a mid or late career accounting professional who displays generosity and leadership within the field, their community, or their firm. And this year, I am really pleased to present the 2023 Outstanding Accounting Award to Jane Rankin. Jane is a CPA and the Director of Finance at Verrill Dana in Portland, where she manages the accounting department. She works closely with the firm's senior leadership team and has played an integral role in implementing several new financial systems. Previously, Jane worked at Baker Newman Noyes as an audit manager. She is an active volunteer with several Maine youth organizations, currently serving as the treasurer of the Steve DeAngelis Charitable Foundation, and she acts as a career ambassador for the Maine Society of CPAs in the accounting profession. We are so thrilled to present this award to you, Jane, and congratulations.
All right, thank you. So we have our final award, which is the Distinguished Alumni Award. I'm going to first ask Larry Blaisdell, to come up, Larry. Larry is the chair of our Executive Advisory Board of the Maine Business School and the Graduate School of Business. He's also the managing director and the principal of Vigilant Capital. And prior to that, I think for 14 years now, Larry, and prior to that was a CEO of another major investment firm. So an important guy to know. So thank you, Larry. And I'm going to ask Associate Dean Patty Miles, Dr. Patty Miles, to come up as well to give out the Distinguished Alumni Award. This award is given by the Advisory Board of the Maine Business School and the Graduate School of Business to any graduate of the University of Maine MBA who's made a significant contribution to leadership or innovation in their field, their community, or their firm. So this is our highest award, our most prestigious award, a number of nominations, and the advisory group goes through them, votes, and makes the decision. And this year's recipient of this prestigious award is someone who has made international contributions to the sports and entertainment industry over a career of active involvement for many decades. He is currently president and CEO of Indie Sports and Entertainment. He has held significant leadership positions with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC. I'm a Canadian, so I'll tell you, in Canada, that is a big deal to be in charge of the CBC. Curling Canada, also a big deal in Canada, as you can imagine, and at an alpine ski resort. In every one of these positions, Greg's leadership has been filled with vision, and he has enabled the did I give his name away? Gave it his organization to drive toward excellence. He's also a deeply collaborative leader. His innovative approach is readily apparent in his current venture and his past adventures, where he is leading the development of a 22-acre parcel in Indianapolis to enhance economic development in the city around opportunities in professional soccer, which we all know is growing, especially with 2026 World Cup coming. Not only is he a distinguished leader, but he's also an incredibly proud MaineMBAer, sits on our advisory board, regularly reaches out to bring hiring professional experiences, hiring former students, and offering to help us in the classroom. Without further ado, I'm pleased to announce the Distinguished Alumni Award winner this year is Greg Stremlaw. Congratulations, Greg. going to say a couple words? All right, one out of three.
Yeah, somebody's got to, right? No, I've just been listening to all the great stories about Maine, so I thought maybe telling a little personal story. So, landed last night, thrilled to be here. Came through New York City, of course, we've all been there, 8 hours on the ground, mechanical problems with the plane, no flight attendants, stress levels going up. It's 2 a.m. in the morning before we got here, but as soon as the wheels touch down, honestly, just peace, tranquility. I'm in Maine, and that's how I feel. You know, it's been 25 plus years, got my MBA at Maine, and that's where I really fell in love with the people. Fell in love with the campus, fell in love with the sports teams. I'm an addict. So much so that my wife and I decided last spring we wanted to invest here. So we've got a lovely cabin that we just adore. And now we get the chance to come back every month, walk the campus together, and go to the Blackberry games, football, basketball, hockey, you name it. So it's great. This means a lot. I also want to do a shout out to Norm, to Jason, Dean, and Executive Dean. They've both been so collaborative to me, to my family, really giving me an opportunity to stay involved with the MBA program, to stay involved with the School of Business, stay involved with the university overall. Lastly, I love seeing all the people here. Somebody had said it, you know, for 2.5 years, this wouldn't have happened in person, right? This would have been virtual. This would have been canceled. So thank you for taking the time to prioritize your schedules to come in and make us feel good. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Greg, and congratulations. That was tremendous. I'm going to call on Thomas Pico, the President and CEO of the University of Maine Alumni Association, to close the evening. But first, I want to acknowledge a couple of people. And we give them, obviously, our AV company, our photographer. This venue is normally empty, so we pulled this all together in a very short period of time. We had some of our MBA students are here, came down from Orono to help out. Taylor Boucher led this effort, so let's give her a round of applause. She's a very, very talented event manager in her background, and she's kept that on with us. And Connor Blake right next to her, her right-hand man, I could say, for this event. Thank you both. We were quite worried about this space when we first saw it, and it has turned out to be really, really well done. So we all did a little bit of architecture along the way. So Tom, if you want to come up and close the evening, and thank you again, everyone, for coming.
Thanks, everybody. My name is Tom Pico, as you can see, and since July, it's been my honor to be the president and CEO for the University of Maine Alumni Association. I want to thank Dean O'Reilly and the team for putting on a tremendous event tonight. I'm very conscious that I'm standing between you and the door, so I'll be brief. But on behalf of the 110,000 alumni of the University of Maine, I want to extend our congratulations to all the honorees tonight. We're honored to be here, and it's just, I get to be on the front line every day of seeing the impact that UMaine alumni make around the world, and it's impressive every single day, and this is yet another reminder of the impact of the University of Maine and the UMaine system. The other thing that I'm struck by tonight is the continued spirit of collaboration that we see within the university system, just that, you know, the Graduate School of Business here being a collaboration between UMaine and the University of Southern Maine, and all the great things that are going on next door at 300 4th Street, bringing the law school together, and the Graduate School of Business, and the UMaine Foundation, and the Muskie Center. So the University of Maine system is really leading the way in evolving education in Maine, and we're honored to be a part of it. So if you haven't been next door, you really should go take a tour. It's really very impressive and an incredible statement from UMaine and the UMaine system to be here and making that kind of a presence in Southern Maine. So thank you again. Congratulations to all the honorees, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the evening. You don't need to leave until 7 or so, I believe, so there's plenty of time to continue connecting and networking, but we'd love to see you. For those of you, whether you're a UMaine alum or not, we'd love to see you on campus in Orono, obviously, and lots of events that the Alumni Association organizes too, so check out our website for upcoming ways to connect as UMaine alums. So thanks and have a great night.